All right, I'm going to see if I can do this without getting somebody messaging me, blowing up my phone, or phone calling me while I'm trying to record. But anyway, guys, today this is going to be the Week 10 Sports Economics Reflection discussion. And for this week, we talked a lot about franchise value. And even though it got a little technical on Monday, I was very glad that we were able to have these sorts of discussions because even though I knew the general points that Professor Rizzo mentioned about how franchise make money, namely through TV contracts and, of course, ticket sales, merchandising, licensing, etc., I didn't know some of the ins and outs of it that Professor Rizzo had the literature pulled up on. So that was very nice. And specifically, one of the things that I was interested in, or a question that I want to relay here, is basically why is it that European soccer leagues, on average, are less valuable than National Football League teams, even though those soccer clubs, or football clubs, depending on how you call the sport, are, their fan base is significantly, or it's comparable or even significantly larger than a lot of the fan bases here in North America for our sports leagues. And the answer to that had to do with the way that TV contracts worked in Europe compared to here in the United States, in that, Europe is naturally a conglomeration, or I'm forgetting the right word, but it's it's a continent, right? It's like many countries put together over one geographic area. So each country has their own, obviously, government and way that they deal with TV contracts and what goes over their airways. They have different ways of regulating that. But even still, even considering all these obstacles, I don't see why it's possible, or excuse me, why it isn't possible for a football club like FC Barcelona or Real Madrid or something to try and help negotiate a TV contract for that would be beneficial for their club outside of Spanish, television broadcasting, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is I think it is possible for greater intergovernmental and sports club cooperation on the European continent than maybe there is right now. Now, as a full disclosure, I know next to nothing about soccer, right? What I'm learning kind of along with a lot of the other class and trying to understand what Professor Rizzo was saying, but I don't see. It seems like it could be a solution, a relatively easy solution, to be able to readjust TV contracts in a way that makes these soccer franchises more valuable, right? Now, maybe they don't care about that, and maybe, having the whole open league versus closed league structure when compared to the United States, which basically in European soccer, open league means, from my understanding, that the teams they are either upgraded or downgraded based upon how well they did in the following season. But moreover, it is much easier, say for example, for people to come together and create a new club or organization relative to trying to create, say, an NFL team here in the United States. Right, and so that might influence the TV contracts as well. I guess I would need to know more information about that, but that's kind of my my short-sighted solution would just to be, well, see what options are available in terms of renegotiating those contracts, right? But another thing that was discussed in class was we alluded a little bit to the Paul Roper paper. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. For for this class. Basically, we had to do a homework a couple of weeks ago wherein we looked at his paper and tried to figure out the ways in which, why football coaches are relatively conservative and why they are hesitant to, say, go for it on fourth down or, just basically do things in the game of football that would be more advantageous, more likely for a team to get a win rather than, play it safe and either punt the ball or do something that's not, they're not taking any risk. And sort of one of the reasons that we came up as a class was just the fact that, well, a lot of the innovations that are now being used in football in terms of analytics and a lot of the mathematical modeling with regards to looking at the percentages and the likelihood at which a given play will actually fold out to a team's advantage. A lot of this analysis is done outside the game of football, right? It's researchers, scientists, mathematicians, whatever, looking at it who have no formal experience with the game of football, but are nonetheless looking at it as part of a greater research project, right? And naturally, they would want to share that information with football coaches, right? And this doesn't necessarily have to do with just football as well. This has been done for basketball and soccer and other sports, but I suppose, given the popularity of the NFL in the United States, it might be most evident in American football. But the point is that because a lot of these innovations come from outside the sport, people are going to be less trustworthy with that, right? General managers and coaches aren't going to be able to, take it, I guess, up in arms to the extent that they would if these analytics were coming from within football itself, right? And so I'm here to offer another solution for that. And I don't know the extent to which the NFL is already doing this, but I would highly recommend that they hire their own basically analytics people, and geez, freaking messages all the time, but hire their own people in order to ensure that somebody who is incentivized to help out the team, whether this person is employed by a franchise within the NFL or the National League, the National Football League as an organization, they're going to be incentivized to help at least one of the teams they're in, and they can, basically be a mouthpiece for representing a lot of the information that's coming from the scientific world, and hopefully even maybe do and present research to themselves, to the football coaches and teams within the league, and say, hey, this is what works. This is what we're going to do in order to help break you guys out of your metaphorical shell in order to try and implement these sort of policies in place for the future. Anyway, with that, I'm actually going to end it here for today, I think. And with that, I will see y'all later. Actually, beg pardon, I have one quick thing I want to add. In that, there was some joking going on in the class about how well, if you want a team to be profitable, the best thing for that team to do would be to A, win a World Series or Super Bowl, whatever the championship is, and then B, after that season is complete, basically siphon all their players away to a different team, because that way you have the Super Bowl victory under your belt, and you're going to get a lot of revenue into that your franchise, but at the same time, for the next 2 or 3 seasons, you don't have to pay a lot as far as attracting new players, right? So it's like having your cake and eating it too, sort of deal. And even though this would make teams more profitable, I just want to say I don't think in practice this is going to be a good solution, because in the long run, and I don't know if many studies have been done on this, but I think there's a general understanding that this would make fans basically ticked off in the long run, but also not as willing to invest their tickets and their eyeballs into watching the team if they were to do this. Not to mention that a lot of the employees in these franchises would be laid off or fired for losing, which is obviously not a good work culture, and you don't want that reputation if you're trying to attract people to your team. So I just wanted to make that quick point.